You're listening to We All Go Forward, a podcast on self-leadership through setbacks. With ownership, action, and growth, be set back, only to be catapulted forward into a more progressed, truer you.
Hey guys, welcome back. Did you miss me? I hope so. I missed you guys. So welcome back to the We All Go Forward podcast. I'm hoping everyone is having an amazing day, an amazing week. By the time you're listening to this, we're just a couple of days into the week, possibly, but that's all right, because sometimes the first few days are the hardest, and we'll leave it at that. Either way, inhale, exhale, woosah, we are here, and we're going to learn about something really great. So before we get into our interview, our spectacular interview that we have with this wonderful guest that I'm going to introduce, I just want to remind us that last episode, we kind of took a different, turn in terms of the call to actions that we're going to use. And I'm really bought into this, to what we're doing, because it really speaks to the slogan of this podcast that says, if you go and I go, then we all go forward. What's my call to action for you guys? It's simply to share this podcast. That's right. If you've been rocking out with us for a bit and you're like, you know what, I already know that this is going to be an episode of value. So far, everything's been, A+ in terms of just where I align right now in life, then go ahead and hit that share button. No questions asked. Okay. However, if you haven't, and this is your first time checking in with us, believe me, take your time, take a listen to this episode. And if by the end you're like, this is really hitting home, and I could think of 1, 2, 5, 10, I don't know. I don't know how many friends you got. Some of us got a lot of friends. Some of us were people who had about 20 bridesmaids. Some of us had about 2. Both are great. I was somewhere in between, but that is not the focus of our episode today. My point is, if you have a few people in mind that you can just hit the share button because you know this is something they need, I implore you, do so, and they will greatly love you for it. And what does all this have to do with the slogan? Well, when you share, you will now be that person that, as you go, as you share, as you listen, as you improve, and then you're sharing this with other people, then they will go #forward. And so now we're all becoming a resource, which is the whole point of this, right? To help others progress in life simply by sharing. So if you're bought in with that thought, if you're like, yeah, I would love to be a part of that, then please go ahead and share. And I thank you ahead of time. Okay, with that said, I've kind of prefaced this episode during the last episode, just talking about we're taking not a big shift, but all under the umbrella of self-leadership through setbacks. We're talking about skills that we need to have, sharpen, all because sometimes, guys, truth be told, we're set back in life solely because we're lacking in these areas. So if we're not good with our time management, if we're unorganized, if we're having a cluttered life and a cluttered mind and a cluttered space, then yeah, that will contribute to us being set back. So we are getting those skills together. And in this episode today, this is a winner. So let me introduce you to our guest. We're here with Janet Bernstein, owner and CPO of the Organizing Professionals. Born and raised in England, Janet moved to the U.S. in her 20s. She is a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania. She has lived in 5 countries on 3 continents and speaks English, Russian, and French. Much of her organizing expertise was developed through her travels and work abroad, including 9 years in Russia and Kazakhstan. She began organizing in 2006 in New York City under Janet Bernstein Organizers before relocating to the Philadelphia area in 2008. Her company quickly grew to include other talented organizers and so rebranded under, you guessed it, the Organizing Professionals. Janet is a certified professional organizer and holds other memberships and specialty certificates in her field. Thrice has Janet and her company been named Philadelphia Magazine's Best of Philly Home Organizer. And they were voted Best of Mainline for the past 5 years by Mainline Today magazine. Please help me welcome Janet Bernstein. Janet, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Thanks, Kimberly. I'm so excited to be with you today.
So am I. So you know what? I was thinking when I was like reading through your bio, and I was like, I hear someone who is truly organized there. Uh, like honestly, I was like, this is someone who is productive, and as a result, this is someone and I know we all really want to learn from. So again, thank you so much. I wanted to start off. So initially, I had a first question in mind, but after reading that, I was thinking, how did you become you? Like, what disciplines or traits have you mastered to just be who you are and stand where you stand today?
Oh gosh, that's such a great question. So I think I will say my mom was organized. We didn't grow up with a lot of things and clutter. And I just remember growing up in a home where she knew where everything was. She was timely. She was organized. I remember once, even as an adult, when I moved over here, I remember calling her up because I needed some banking information. And I was on the phone. I thought, oh, she's going to take her a while to find it. And I said, Mom, can you find like such and such a piece of, information from my bank account? She goes, hold on. Literally 10 seconds. Here it is. And I was like, wow, that's really something. I think I learned something from you there growing up. So that was sort of my upbringing, as just learning from my mom. And then once I hit my late teens and 20s, I was traveling a lot. And then I was traveling with kids. And then I don't think I had an alternative but to be organized, right? Because I was traveling with three young kids in tow. We were moving frequently, and it gave us the opportunity not only not to accumulate a lot, which was extremely helpful as well, but just learning how to pack, unpack, traveling with kids, moving with kids.
Yeah.
And all of that really just helped me, create this business to help other people get organized and to help them move.
I love that. That's great because, of course, not everyone has the same story, which is fine. That's what makes us all, unique and interesting.
Yeah.
But I know for me, my mom was not the organized one. My father was, even though he wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily in the household, but it was always interesting to me to see like how did they even match up. But
Yeah.
really what I what I heard from you is that a lot of times people say certain traits are caught, as in you kind of just by being in the right environment with other people, you catch those good traits, and sometimes they're taught. And what you just explained was a little bit of both. You caught some from your mom, just kind of watching her, but a lot of that life had to teach you. Just like you said, there was no other alternative. I love that.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I believe organization, because I know that's a question that a lot of people have. Are you born organized, or is it something you can learn? And I do think it's a bit of both. I really do. And so I think just being in this position to help people who find it more of a challenge to be organized is just a really, really great thing.
That's amazing. How would you describe what it is that you do? Include what being an organizing professional means to you.
Well, apart from being the world's best job, you mean?
Yes. Yes. Apart from that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll start by saying the tagline for the Organizing Professionals, which is the name of our company, is transforming lives through our passion for organization. And to me, that really sums up what we do, because everybody on our team is passionate about being organized, right? It's something that we understand the value of and spills into every aspect of our lives. So not only are we passionate about being organized, the other part is that we love helping others. And so transferring our skill and helping others is the second part of it. So to me, transforming lives through our passion for organization really does sum up what we do. And then, so that's what we do. But then I'll say, in terms of the daily life of being a professional organizer, I mean, Oh my gosh, it's a dream come true for somebody with our skill set, because no 2 days are the same, right? So maybe on a Monday, we're helping clients who are going to put their house on the market. So they need to declutter it, first of all, and make it look presentable for photos. And then maybe on Tuesday, it's a different client, and they've already put their house on the market, and we're helping them pack up. So it's packing up the entire house. And maybe another day it's unpacking and setting up and organizing. So we have clients who can go on vacation from their old house and come back into their new house, and the entire new house is completely unpacked, set up, and organized. I mean, isn't that a dream come true?
That honestly, yes. And you know what's funny? Like you said that it's the world's best job. And I
Yeah.
just love that because I could just imagine some listeners are like, no, that would not be the world's best job for me. So it's great.
Right.
It's really great that we have Janet and the organizing professionals, because for some of us, it's honestly a nightmare. And that kind of like, I'm going to transition into another question in terms of, so I was thinking, initially I was going to ask you what made you start organizing in the first place. And you kind of spoke to that a little bit, but I'm not sure if there's more you want to add on there. And this is the reason why. We also talk about in the United States about the American dream, quote unquote. And so a lot of that is often connected to the belief that anyone can be successful as long as you put in the effort. And I truly love that. But I think that definition has also taken on the belief that you can be successful, but also in a quote unquote non-traditional sense. And so today it's like influencers, right? We see content creators or people being successful in ways that, even podcasting that they didn't think about not too long ago. But maybe perhaps not too long ago, people didn't know that an organizing professional was a thing. So would you agree with that? Or do you feel like this has been a known and utilized resource for some time for those of us who have nightmares for organizing?
No, I remember when I first started off in New York City, that was about 2005. And I'd heard of it because I had a friend who said, professional organizer, well, that's an interesting job. But you couldn't find a company to hire you. That didn't exist. And I remember back in the day, back in the 2000s, I would say, I'm a professional organizer. And then I would follow it up. The question was, do you know what that is? And I would always have to explain what a professional organizer was. And that's no longer the thing, which is great because we've had such great publicity with TV shows. And it's just, and there's a lot more of us out there now. So, but in terms of putting in the hard work, you're right. This is no job for the faint of heart. I will say that, I think it's glamorized on TV maybe, but it is exhausting work as well.
Yeah, for us again, that's where it switches. Like, I love this. So it's a dream for you to organize. It's a nightmare for us to organize. But then it's a dream for us to come home from a vacation and everything in place. But for you, there's like so much hard work there that really needs to be highlighted and appreciated. So you work with people from Philadelphia to Russia. And or abroad, which is again impressive. But no matter the clientele, do we all tend to underestimate how much being unorganized affects other areas of our lives, whether it be emotional, social, relational, professional? Do we underestimate how important being organized is?
I would say yes, wholeheartedly yes. Yeah. I mean, I think it impacts every aspect of our lives, right? I could go on and on about this. So this is only an hour podcast, so I've got to be careful. But
no, we want you to tell us. Please help us.
So, okay, let's unpack this a little bit then. So just the emotional aspect, right? So let's just start with that. So I'm a huge believer in, if your outward environment is cluttered, it's a good representation of what's going on internally. So for example, today, before I get on this podcast, I cleared off my entire desk because I need to be able to focus on what we're saying. And if I'm looking around at my desk, even though you can't see my desk, if I'm looking around and there's just scraps of paper and pens and whatever on this desk, it's going to interfere with, I think, my productivity. So the emotion, the outward is a huge representation of what's going on internally. And then, okay, let's talk a little bit more about emotionally. So let's just say you're going to work and you've lost your car keys, right? Yeah. So it's first thing in the morning, you've lost your car keys, you can't find them. All of a sudden you feel out of control. right? And then you're flustered, you're panicked, you're snapping at family members, even though it's not their fault, it's your fault because you can't find them. And now you're late, right? So now you're driving erratically to work because you're late and you're in a foul, bad mood. And it's tangible. So you get to the office and everyone feels that you're in a bad mood. And all of this is because you fail to have a designated place in your home for your car keys.
Yeah.
So no judgment there.
Right. No.
But it's just, that's the emotional impact. Small example of not being organized.
Yeah. And you know what? I think you just described most of our Tuesday mornings, but it's crazy because have you ever watched Home Alone?
Yeah, I just watched it this Christmas time. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, well, yeah, our kids love it. But I always I feel like in the past couple of guest interviews, I tell whoever I'm interviewing that I'm having my Macaulay Culkin moment where, my hands are on my cheeks and my mouth is and I think that was just the moment that I had with you because as you're talking about your outward environment and being cluttered, and I'm taking a look at my desk and I'm like, I could do better, but honestly, that was so important and so much truth because we often talk about in this podcast, like how life is integrated. We like to compartmentalize and say, what I have going on here is not going to affect all these other areas, but it does.
Yeah.
And, when we talk about self-leadership through setbacks, which is what this podcast is about, self-leading and optimizing all the areas in our lives. This is the foundation, getting organized is, like you said, it how can we optimize the rest of our lives if we're not paying attention to this area?
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, even socially, right? So I nobody wants to be that person who's labeled always late, right? And there's this, again, so that's a time management impact of not being organized. Why are you late? Because, I mean, oh my gosh, I could go on to you don't know where your clothes are. You were looking for a certain thing to wear and you're rummaging through a massive pile of clothing because you can't find the black sweater that you want to wear. And so now you're late. And so the reputation for, Julie is always late. Nobody wants that. And it can be resolved by getting more organized at home and just understanding even how long it takes you to do certain tasks.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. How long it takes us. Yeah. Go more into that if you don't mind. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I deal with clients is just time management. And I'll say, have you ever timed yourself to know how long in the morning it takes you to get ready? And most people will go, oh, no, I haven't. So I would say, time yourself, just a stopwatch, or even just look at the clock. How long does it take you to take a shower? How long does it take you to do your hair? How long does it take you to do your makeup? How long does it take you to get dressed, have breakfast, get the kids ready? Whatever it takes. Most people underestimate how long it takes them to get ready. So once you know how long it normally takes you to get ready, the chances of being on time for things are going to improve dramatically. But we always have hopes like, oh, yeah, I can do it all in an hour. And then you're just racing and you're flustered. And the beauty of living a more organized life is just the calm and peace it brings to you and everyone around you.
I love that because we talked, my question obviously spoke to the downside of being unorganized, but some of us are that's really important to face. And some of us are definitely motivated by that. But some people kind of shut down when they hear that, okay, well, I'm a lost cause. But you're speaking as well to the benefits of what's the other side of that coin of getting organized. And it's the calm, it's the peace. And
oh my gosh,
that can help us get motivated. So you kind of started talking about this a little bit earlier, but I wanted to say, some of us just seem like we just don't have the ability to get organized. Is organizing a skill that can be learned, or at least one that we could be coached through?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it took me a while to understand that actually this was, for me, something that I was either, taught growing up or an innate gift. So I do believe it's both. And some people definitely have a natural propensity to being organized. So people talk about left brain versus right brain, right? And so brain people they're using the logical side of their brain. That's predominantly what they're working on. The right brain people are more creative. They're artistic, and usually right-brained people are more organizationally challenged.
Mm-hmm.
And those people that's typically our clients. And that comes, sometimes they have, I've been diagnosed with ADHD, also understand that. And they will say, I've tried everything and nothing works. But they will also say, but if you show me, there's a good chance that I can maintain the organizational systems that you put in place. And I found that so often to be true. Show somebody. So, for example, I have two daughters, right? One is like a mini me, so organized. In fact, she puts me to shame. She's super organized. Let's not talk about her right now. Let's talk about the other daughter, the younger one.
Right. Okay.
So Ariana has a different skill set, let's just say. And I remember when she was a teenager, I mean, her room was just atrocious. It was a mess. And at one point I thought, I'll say, Ariana, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for you to have an organized room? And she'd say 3. And it was like,
wow.
So it's not as important to you. But what I did was I gave her the tools growing up to be organized. So I said, let me show you what you need to do because it doesn't come naturally to you. These are the steps you need to take to organize your room. And that was interesting for her. And it's not something that she understood innately, but I gave her the tools, and now she's in her 20s and lives in her own place. And so she knows how to organize. And that's it. So if it's not something that comes naturally to you, then I truly believe, let's just unpack the challenges you're having and let's work through it step by step.
Yeah, I think that's so great. Because one, you gave everybody a really safe, like landing, a really soft landing space. Like it feels really safe for any type of thinker. Like you said, if you're a left brain thinker, maybe some things are innate, but either way, you still have to kind of continue developing those skills. And if you're like the right side creative, and you're organizationally challenged, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to adopt that word. It's like, okay, there's no shame in someone just showing you how, so that way, we can maintain it. I love that. Show me and I'll maintain. So people who start with you, like we talk about on this podcast, like mindset is truly like the floor to everything, because it's our belief systems. And really it speaks to, like, even when you said with your daughter, like just the priorities, like she's like, this is not even really important to me, but one day it will.
Yes.
So what are some mantras or some statements that you give clients in order to promote the right mindset? Like, I want to get decluttered. I want to get organized. What are some things that you just teach them to say or adopt in their mindset so that they can?
Such a good question.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah. Okay.
I have 4 that I always give out. So let's start with the first one. So I will say, if you don't love it, need it, or use it, it doesn't deserve a place in your home.
Beautiful.
If you don't love it, think about any item, anything in your home comes into one of those categories. If I don't love it, need it, or use it, it doesn't deserve a place in my home. So if you're looking to declutter and get more organized, and you just say you're going through your closet, right? I mean, if you stick to that, you're going to have a much easier time, even if it's difficult for you to part with things. And that's a whole other topic we can talk about, because for some people, it is emotionally challenging to let things go, right?
Yeah.
But if you have some really good, ruthless mantras, that's going to help you. Right. And so the next one that I like to say is, if just because something is usable doesn't mean you need to keep it. All right. So let's just say, and I always like to say spatulas, right? Let's just say you're decluttering your kitchen and you have, 6 spatulas. Why do you have 6 spatulas? I don't know. But do you need 6? But then you would counter and say, yeah, but they're all still perfectly good. Fine. But they're cluttering your kitchen drawer. You don't have the space for 6 spatulas. And just because they're in perfectly good working order doesn't mean you need to keep them.
That's great, because that like puts a whole nother definition or perspective on like waste. Like sometimes we're just like, it's good conditions, but is it good for you? Like, sure, it's good, but is it good for you? So if just because something is usable doesn't mean I need to keep it.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, that one just really gets the core of a lot of stuff, because we live in America. This is the country of excess, right? And so we typically have too much of everything. And too much leads to clutter, which leads to chaos, which leads to family discord, right? When you've got too much in your home, it spills over and affects everything.
Yeah.
All right. So next mantra. I love this one. I will declutter without guilt.
Oh.
I think about this job. My gosh.
I'm like writing notes here, just so you know.
So imagine your sister gives you a gift, or your mother-in-law. I mean, the list can go on, right? They give you a gift and you don't like it, or it's past its expiration, whatever the reason. But you'll say, yeah, but I can't let it go because I'm going to feel so bad about it. Or my mother-in-law's going to check up on me and she's going to say, where is it? So many different scenarios.
Shout out to the mother-in-laws, right? Yeah. Not all, just a little bit.
Don't mean to pick on them. Yeah, I'm not one yet, but I will be one day.
Okay.
So, but I'm sure, Kimberly, that when you give someone a gift, you give it with no strings attached, right? You don't expect that person to keep it forever. I hope not anyway. So why do we place that sort of guilt on ourselves? Like, oh, I just can't because that person's going to be upset. No, I am sure most of the time that person didn't expect you to keep it forever. Or guilt of like, oh, but it was so expensive and I hardly wore it. It was, it was a buyer's remorse, but keeping it because it was so expensive again, but you're not wearing it. You're not using it. So declutter without the guilt and move on.
That is so good. Don't forget your last mantra. I know you won't, but that I always joke like on this podcast, like sometimes I tease my family, like my mom. I don't know how much she's, listening, but my mom's like born and raised in Haiti. She's just hilarious woman. But I could just think about things like her. Like if you gave my mom a photo, like how kids take yearly photos at school.
Yeah.
Any family member who gives her a photo, she's got like a gazillion. Well, photos maybe are a little different, but she just keeps everything from weddings to. And I'm like, Mom, I don't think they're expecting you to have this. Like, she even has like a prom photo from somebody I went to high school with, and I'm like, Mom, like I don't even talk to this person. And she still still has it. So it's just like, or my sister, I'll mess with one of my sisters, but she often she'll buy stuff and say, well, I can't fit it now, but I plan on losing weight.
Yeah. And, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like, yeah, she's holding on to these things. And I can mess with her with that because she messes with herself, but she's just like, okay, well, one day it's gonna work out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just the guilt aspect is huge. And it really does prevent people from living, a much more organized life. So that's one thing that, I highly encourage our clients is like, come on. Let's get over the guilt. Let's work through it. Let's talk through it, and let's just move on because it's just preventing you from being your best organized self. And then finally, I like to say, if you keep everything, then nothing is special.
Wow.
You keep everything, then nothing is special. So there's been times, I'll give you an example of a client years ago. She'd lost tragically both of her parents. And I went down into her basement, and even though the parents' home had been sold, she had essentially taken almost everything from their home and put it in their basement. And I am talking about racks and racks of clothing, memorabilia, tchotchkes, you name it. It was all down. It was all down there. And I was explaining to her, I understand that it's very, very difficult to let go. But if you keep a few things, that's enough for your memories. You've got the photographs and you've got a few things. You don't need to keep absolutely everything because this is not beneficial, right? I mean, it's taking up your entire basement. So just keep a few things, just a few treasured items.
I think that a lot of people probably could relate to this topic, just loss. And, it just kind of ties in so many other emotions of grief and guilt and, but, what I really hear in all the mantras, like I'm hearing just different skills, like you said, like we talked about earlier, traits or disciplines that helped you optimize in your life. Like I hear decision making in these mantras. I hear prioritization. And these are just really important things for us to adopt in our mindset and in our action. In order to get organized.
Definitely. Absolutely. And some mantras will work better for some people than others, right? Because like I said, people struggle with different areas. So, the guilt one, maybe that's not your issue. Maybe your issue is procrastination. Maybe your issue is being just overwhelmed. I mean, there are just so many different challenges that prevent people from being organized.
Yeah. Okay. So for listeners who are tuning in, and let's say I am your client, I'm like, Janet, help. I need help. Where do we start? Like, what are some strategies that you use to get clients organized?
All right. So let's really pretend then, Kimberly, you're the client. Yeah. So you're calling up. What is the one area in your life or your home that you're like, oh, I just need help? What is it?
I would say finding a place for everything. Let's say that.
Well, that's huge, but okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Just do the entire house.
Yeah. Exactly. This is my selfish way of like helping get the entire house organized. No, right. We can narrow it down some.
No, I can work with that.
Okay. That's okay. Perfect.
All right. So, I mean, the first thing, in terms of what we do is I will come out and we'll do a consultation, and you would lead me through your pain points or the entire house in this area. And then let's just say we've scheduled the first session. So I would say to you, okay, I understand that it's the entire house, but let's just start with one area. So what is the one area that you're like, oh, I've got to start here before anything else?
Okay, let's say bedroom.
Great. I love bedrooms. Okay. I tell you why I love bedrooms, because when you pick a bedroom, you can make a huge impact very quickly, because we're probably talking about clothing, and clothing takes up a lot of space. And so in terms of just big impact immediately or seeing a big transformation, bedroom is a great place to start. And if we're talking about your clothes closet, that's something that you have to deal with every single day, right? So it has a daily impact on your life, which is great. All right. So let's just say we're in your closet. So we're going to start off in your closet. We were going to need some tools, which is we like to use different color trash bags to keep us on track. So we would bring up clear trash bags. Clear trash bags are for donations, so that if you're taking it off to Green Drop or you're consigning or whatever you're going to do with those clothes, when you show up at Green Drop or the charity of your choice, they don't think you're giving the trash. They can actually see what you're bringing them. I think that's helpful.
Yeah.
All right. So clear trash bags, and then black trash bags for trash or things that just can't be donated. Maybe there's some paper. You might need some paper bags for recycling. So that's the tools that you need. And then if you were doing this by yourself, I recommend doing it in small amounts of time, because if you go into your closet and go, all right, I'm going to do this all at once, you are going to get exhausted, emotionally fried, and just throw your hands up in the air and go, this is just too much. I give up. And what you might have done is pull everything out of your closet, and now you've got a massive mess everywhere.
Yep.
And then you're too exhausted to put it all back together again. Yeah. So make sure that you are kind to yourself and just say it's 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, a small amount of time. I mean, 4 hours doesn't seem like a small amount of time, but if you're working with a professional organizer, we typically work in 3 or 4 hour sessions. So that's why I'm saying that. But if you're working on your own, I would break it down into small amounts, say like 2 hours, and then start in one place and work your way around. So let's just start. Say you're going to start in the left side of your closet. You start there. You don't start moving around from, oh, let me go over here and let me go into this drawer.
Yeah.
You're just going to get, unfocused, and you need to keep your focus on one particular area and then go through everything. When was the last time I wore it? Do I love, need, or use this? Do I need 10 pairs of black pants?
All right.
Whatever it is, and get ruthless with yourself. Then you're decluttering. So you've made some great decisions. Maybe you're using your bed to put all the things that you want to keep. And then you've got, a bag filled with donations, or maybe even more than one. And then you're going to put it all back in order.
So everything that you're keeping, that's when you're going to go back and put back in order within your closet.
Exactly. So you can get hyper organized with this, which would be type of clothing. Well, type of clothing is not hyper organized. All pants together, all tops together, all sweaters together. That should be basic. That's organization 101. Okay. Because when you're looking for something, you don't have to go, oh, well, I've got a dress, but the dress is mixed in with the pants and mixed in with the sweaters. You'll never find anything, and you don't remember what you have. So then you end up rebuying things. But when you have like with like, you're gonna remember where things are, and it's easier to find things.
This is really good because it kind of speaks to systems, and I think sometimes, I always talk about how we use words, we don't really think about what they mean sometimes, or we underutilize it as a result. And so, like, how important, I think you're describing a lot of systems, correct me if I'm wrong, like just implementing systems to, like you said, know what we have, because otherwise things won't run smoothly, and you'll be buying excess. And like, how important are systems in all this?
Oh my gosh, so important. So I do this presentation sometimes, and I talk about the importance of organizing your closet. And just the next part of that would be even color organizing it too. Just so for example, I mean, there's days where I'm leaving, I'm backing out my car, and I'm realizing it's 40 degrees outside, and I'm not dressed correctly. I need a sweater. So then I've got to get out of my car, run back upstairs, find the black sweater. Now, how long do you think it's going to take me? Well, if you've organized your closet and invested that time, it's going to take you 5 seconds, because the black sweater, not only is it in the sweater section, it's in the color organization. So all the blacks, going into the lights, I can find it immediately.
Yeah.
How I removed the panic and the stress. Yes, I had to run back upstairs, but that's nothing compared to the fact that I can find it in 5 seconds. How great is that?
That's really great, because we all have seen like that image of women, and particularly maybe men too, but you're getting dressed and it's just like clothes flying left and right, because you're like, where is this thing? And so you're like, just the foundations are organizing by item, but to take it up a notch, we can do it by color. And so that's just like a real boss move, to just be like, oh, I need a sweater. And here I found the right sweater in the right color, because I have it all in the right section. Yeah, exactly.
So that having that system in place, I'm sure a lot of listeners are going, oh my gosh, I can never get there. But imagine just giving that gift to yourself of investing that time to do that. Because every single day you've got to go to your closet and you've got to find something to wear, and how much better it is. I mean, well, I'll work with clients, and we've organized their closet, and you open it up and you show them, or we've been doing it together, and you sort of hear those angels singing, like, oh, this is just so great. And everybody should experience that. You just want to open up your closet and go, oh, because it's all there.
Oh goodness.
Just changes your entire day.
Yeah, like I want the angels singing too. Like, so I do, you're right. And I just love how you said this is a daily encounter. So so you can either, so this reminds me of like something, like I have a mentor that kind of told me, choose your hard, right? You can either do the hard stuff on the front end or on the back end. And so you can either like every day encounter like, oh my gosh, look at my closet, what am I going to wear? Or you can every day like encounter that that ha with the angels singing, but yet you did the hard work already, the
Yes.
preparation to set it up that way, and you will truly thank yourself in the long run. That
No,
yeah,
no question about
yeah,
it. No question
that's
about it. But it takes time and effort. And it's not, yes, that big initial getting it organized, it takes time, but then you've got to maintain it. But and that is a discipline. If you're in the habit of taking your clothes off and just throwing them on a chair, it
hmm
takes a little bit of a habit to then start, removing, if it's still clean, hanging it back up instead of just throwing it on the chair. But think about it, that hanging that dress up or that skirt or that sweater, how long does it take you? 60
right.
seconds, 60 seconds, right? It's so worth it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it just speaks to like when you were talking about the small goals. Like I think sometimes like that's our issue with progress, let alone organization. That like we have to be okay with like if I say today 15 minutes or 2 hours, like you said, that I'm going to work
Yeah.
on this. Once
Mm-hmm.
that time is up, like we need to be okay to just stop, right, and put things
Yes.
down and walk away, and be okay with the progress that we've made.
Yes. Absolutely. So let's break it up. Say you're doing this by yourself and you say, all right, so 4 days this week, I'm going to set a timer for half an hour. I mean, you can do anything for half an hour, right?
Yeah,
So, but think about it, that half hour for 4 days, that's just 2 hours. You just gifted yourself 2 hours. And if you do that for an entire month, 8 hours, an entire day, can you imagine how much you would do? Just 4 days a week, half an hour, 8 hours.
yeah, this is great.
Really,
So
really
listen,
adds up.
all the listeners who are tuning in, make sure you have your mantras down. We got 4 great mantras to help us get into the right mindset. And then if we're getting started, like if we're signing up to say like, hey, I would like to be a client, we start with a consultation. And then Janet just gave us some great tools, including the trash bags, but also just the time frames and like 30 minutes every day, 4 times in the week will give you 2 hours in one
Mm-hmm.
week. And so that's just yeah, that's really great. Okay, so that sounds good. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm thinking about people who are saying, talking about the people who kind of like compartmentalize. I think I read somewhere that you also work with businesses, right, to enhance productivity and profit. So
Mm-hmm.
any tips for a person who might be listening and they're just saying, I do pretty good at home, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're saying I don't spend a lot of time at home and that's really low priority, or
Mm-hmm.
I hire people to keep my home peaceful because I just can't do it. But
Yeah.
my business, that's my baby. That's the place where I feel like no one can step in there, but me.
Mm-hmm.
Any tips for entrepreneurs or people who own a business to enhance their productivity?
Gosh, yes. So,
She's like, I
well,
live and breathe this. Yeah.
first of all, for entrepreneurs, I will say, number one, you have to understand your strengths and weaknesses early on, because if you try and do everything, you will fail. Right. So,
Very good.
I will say for me, even though I'm organized, I am a high level sort of high idea person and I don't like details. I mean, surprise, right? So I'm extremely fortunate in that I have a director of operations and we have opposite skill sets. So she is fabulous at everything that I'm not good at. And our business wouldn't work as well if I didn't have somebody picking up my weak areas. So as an entrepreneur, you've got to find out early on what am I good at and what can I outsource. So that's number one, because that will stop you from just kicking yourself going, oh, I'm hopeless. No, you're not hopeless. You have strengths in one area and weaknesses in another. So delegating to other people is huge. I know that was not exactly the answer you were looking for, but to me, that is just so crucial to
No,
running a business.
I think that was exactly the answer I was looking for
Oh, okay,
because,
good.
like we've talked about in this podcast how we're not going to be good in every area and how like codependency, no, that's not good, but interdependence is very good. It is really how we're built to exist as humans. Like we're never going to be good at every area. So that translates into business like that. If you're going to be productive, you have to understand strengths and weaknesses. And
Yeah.
I like that. What am I good at? You said, and what can
Yeah.
I outsource? Yeah.
Yes. And
So many
then,
sticky notes. I love this.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then what we typically do, this is whether you're running your own business or whether you are an employee working for another business. Say you sit down in the morning and you've just got a massive amount of email coming in. Nobody takes the time to sit down and really think about how you need to operate in that particular day. We just dive straight in. We're putting out the immediate fires immediately. And then we just run from one thing to another thing. And we're letting the day dictate our time instead of us controlling the day.
Wow.
And so
we're letting
starting
our
off,
day dictate our time instead of us controlling the day. Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Instead of just sitting back, I mean, I still use paper and pencil, and I'll take a list of priorities. What do I need to accomplish? What are the main, or even for the week, what are the main things that I'm trying to accomplish this week? Because if I just dive in, I'm not going to get to the things that I deem are important. Everything else is just going to encroach. My email just go bing, bing, bing all the entire day, right? That's a terrible way of managing your time, because then you just, like I said, you're just putting out fires.
Yeah. That's good because we're often just like you said, you're just putting out fires. And sometimes we're not focusing on, I think almost do you think it becomes easier to put out fires versus like honing in on the important things, like the top priorities? Because it probably almost takes a little bit more, like whether it's creative space or just self-leadership to say, okay, I'm not going to overreact or react to those things right now because these are the top 3 or whatever priorities for my day.
Yes, 100%. Because I think we look for, that's going to take less brain power. And I think most of us are typically on the lazy side, right? We'd rather do the easy stuff, and maybe answering email is easier than, say, you have to do some writing work or just some deep brain work. And not everybody functions like the first thing in the morning is their best time. That's another thing. Figure out your time that you are the most productive. And that's not going to be the same for everyone. Maybe for some people it's late at night. Maybe for some people it's in the middle of the afternoon. That's another thing you've got to figure out. And when you figured out your best brain time, shut out the rest of the world.
This is really good. So I'm happy. Yeah, no, I'm really happy I asked this question. So okay, you can't try to do everything because you'll fail. And then there's the keeping in mind what our main goals are, but then figuring out what our best brain time is. This really speaks to uniqueness because, like everybody just automatically thinks like morning, as when I should get up. It's all the shoulds, right? But here is someone, you are a successful business owner and, and just all of the above. And yet you're like making it okay and saying that there is a best brain time and we all need to figure that out. How did you figure out what your best brain time was?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. So I realized that most of the people on my team are early morning people and I'm not. And I will say, I mean, I remember somebody saying years ago, morning early birds think that they're a superior being to night owls, but night owls think they're much cooler. And I think, that's so true. So I am not an early morning person. So half of my team are like firing off emails at like 6 or 7. I'm like, are you serious? That is not going to work for me. So I'm basically at my desk, which is in my home at 9 in the morning. I don't answer anything before 9. And then I still need to it's almost like warming up. I need a good hour, I think, to get warmed up. So I'm not going to start doing the serious stuff until maybe 10 or 11. So that is a time when I will say, this is when I'm going to work. So early, I would say anytime between 10 and then maybe until 2. Not the entire time, but that like the middle of the days is good for me. I'm shutting down by like 6. I close my office by 6. I'm out of here. I'm closing my office door. I'm not going back in.
Yes. Yes, Janet. You know what? I'm really like Janet. No, honestly, I'm like Janet for president because at this point, like no, you're saying like honestly, so I like to really like listen to and like really deep dive into what people are saying. And what I'm hearing in this is like not only does so there's so many benefits to the whole optimizing and organizing and productivity. One, you get more control over your schedule.
Yeah.
But two, you're like redeeming your time. You're making the most with a shorter period of time. And so we like to
Yeah.
think like we have to spend 8 hours, 16, 8. I think, it speaks to like the hustle culture we talk about right now in the US where it's like, work 25 hours a day when we have 24. And it's like, if you're
Yeah.
not doing that, you're not successful. But yet you're like, actually, like I use this time frame and I
Mm-hmm.
buckle down and you're
Yes.
for sure getting more done in that 4 hours, 5 hours, etc. time than some of us try to get done in 8 to 12 hours.
Oh, that's exactly true. Because if you don't put a cap on your time, you'll just keep, working slowly, doing whatever. But if you say, I'm shutting down at 5 or 3 or whatever it is, you're going to work faster and you're going to be more productive. I totally believe it.
Yeah.
So many, especially business owners, so many will say, yeah, I work every single evening. I don't believe in that. I mean, you've got to have some kind of balance. The beauty of having your own business is the freedom to dictate your own time. That shouldn't be that your time and your business is taking over everything.
Yeah. Because otherwise it's like you just signed up, you're still working for someone. You're like working for yourself, but not in the way that you thought that you would be. Like you're not owning
Exactly.
your time. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions because I definitely don't want to hold you forever because I know you have so many things to probably on your plate. But I heard you mention ADHD earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
something that stood out to me is that you hold a specialist certificate in chronic disorganization and ADHD from the Institute for Challenging Disorganization. So why was that important to you?
When I first started organizing, I would say 80% of my clients would say they had ADHD. And at the beginning, I didn't know enough. I didn't understand hold on, why can't you just do this?
Mm-hmm.
So I needed more education. And I love people with ADHD. I have to say, because we're on a different, we're on a different sort of personality trait. And oh my gosh, I love people because they have, typically they're creative. They're the life and soul of the party. They have
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful skills. And yet most people with ADHD really do feel that I think they feel inferior because we live in a world that's we value organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't value that other set, which is the creativity, the artistic, not on the same level anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people with ADHD, contact us, I hear this, just this sort of inferiority complex, which I often say, hey, listen to what you have done. Listen to your talents. I will never be able to do that. You can always hire someone to help you get organized, but you can't hire creativity.
Yeah.
That's an innate skill. Just really wanting to help, a brain and a mindset that I didn't have, and just really understand and come up with solutions and strategies that work, is just being
Yeah.
invaluable.
Awesome. You're such a problem solver. And I'm sure anyone who deals with chronic disorganization appreciates the fact that you took the time to just understand them more. So I'm thinking about, again, all your different clientele. And you know how sometimes if we're going to the doctor's office, we feel like, let me shave my legs, or before the
Yeah.
cleaners come over, we decide,
Yeah.
let me clean. Would you say, is there any prep work that your clients should take on or tackle before they invite the organizing professionals into their lives, whether it be business or home?
Absolutely not. We need to see you in your natural habitat.
Okay.
So don't shove your piles into a closet. We need to see how you live and what's going on. That's really, really important. because
I
we
wasn't
don't
expecting that answer. I love it.
really.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, but I wasn't sure like if it would kind of get in your way, but I love this. You want to see people in their natural habitat. Continue. That's awesome.
Yeah, you, absolutely. Because otherwise, you don't know what you're dealing with. You know, if you're just meeting someone if we're meeting someone just for an hour and they've hidden everything that's really going on, that's not fair to the professional organizer because you don't really know what you're dealing with, right? So you could come for the
Yeah.
first session and all of a sudden the first session is just chaos, absolutely everyone. You go, well, this is not what I was expecting. I didn't see this before. So yeah, we always say, don't do a thing. Don't do a
Okay.
thing.
So Janet is saying to us all, come as you are, listeners. Okay. Let's not hide anything
No.
from, yeah, that makes a lot of
Oh,
sense.
and we understand this is the difference between having a family member help you get organized and having a professional organizer because we're trained. We've seen everything, first of all, absolutely everything. And we understand the personality traits that make you who you are. So if you're having a family member, you might get a bunch of really judgmental remarks and comments, some eye rolling, some like, oh, really? You get all of that when you're working with a professional organizer. First of all, we've seen absolutely everything. I mean, I can't tell you how many times potential clients have said, am I the worst you've ever seen? It's like
Yeah.
everyone thinks they're the worst we've ever seen. I'll say,
Oh,
absolutely not. We've seen everything.
yeah. A lot of times that's what we're all doing anyway, hiding and just assuming that no one is experiencing what we're experiencing. So,
Yeah,
that feels really great that you are truly helping people. It's more than just a service, but you're like saying, let me help you understand what's a little bit normal out here and you're not
right.
alone. And
With
they're
with
also,
with no judgment. There's no judgment, and I think that's really important for people to know.
yeah, that's really important. Okay. So, I will ask, or do you have, well, first I wanted to ask, are there any surprises that you feel like your clients tend to have when they do sign up? In terms of like, is there something that they kind of overestimate in the process? Like, oh, I thought it would be more of this or less of this. Whether it's like cost or the process being complicated. Do you ever get feedback on like what surprises them the most?
Oh, you ask such good questions.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So I will say every single time whether it's a 4 hour session or a full day session, they will say, I am absolutely exhausted and you did all the work. Because it is exhausting to make all of those decisions, right? About what you're keeping and what you're not keeping. And people underestimate how difficult that is. And so that's one of
Mhm.
our jobs. We'll say, I'm telling you right now, don't plan anything that evening if it's your first session, because you will be absolutely exhausted.
Exhausted.
And you don't think about it. After a while, it becomes so much easier. But that first session, it's exhausting for the client.
That's so good. And actually, I'm related to that because part of why I started this podcast is because I used to say like decision making literally used to, it still does it. Well, yeah, I've gotten a lot better, but it used to traditionally take me out. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like even though like on the outside, people are like, Kim's such a go-getter and she's very accomplished in this area. And
Uh-huh.
inwardly, my mind would just be like to make the decision. There was so much that went into it that I would be depleted. Like, so
Yeah.
I could just like imagine like the benefit to have someone like you nearby, but yet making those decisions with you because it's a partnership.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. I'll say, we work like a personal trainer, right? So we push you to go further than you're willing to go on your own. So
I
that's the
love
job
that.
of a professional organizer. Just, because on your own, you'll give up a little bit easier. You won't make probably you're not going to be as strict with yourself. And so working side by side with a professional organizer really does help you. And then we'll hear all the time, wow, I didn't expect to get so much done. I mean, it is such a feel good profession. I kind of overemphasize that enough. It really is.
That's amazing. And you just really summarized just the fact that we say that we all go forward is about using resources in terms of if you go and I go, then we all can go forward together. So you pushing people to go further on than they would on their own, it just summarizes that beautifully. So Janet, any final words of advice for people looking to optimize their lives by getting organized?
Yeah. I totally believe that everyone deserves that feeling when they come home at the end of the day into their home and just feeling relaxed, because your home needs to be your retreat and your oasis, right? And that it just doesn't come from nowhere. You have to invest that time to really get your home into an organized space so that you come home at the end of the day and you go, oh, I'm so glad to be home. And that is just so priceless, because when your home is organized and you know where things are and your family members know where things are, it spills over to every aspect of your life. Yeah. And that's why I absolutely love what we do. It's just life changing.
That's beautiful. So where can people find you?
So many different ways. Our website is theorganizingprofessionals.com. And then we're on Instagram at The Organizing Professionals. That's plural, Organizing Professionals. I'm on LinkedIn, so find me there under Janet Bernstein. Okay. And Facebook, we're on Facebook as well under The Organizing Professionals. So many different ways. And our email address is info@theorganizingprofessionals.com.
Awesome. So you guys, the listeners, you've heard all the many ways that we can contact Janet and her awesome, amazing team. As she has said time and time again, this is a passion. They love helping people in this area. And so wouldn't you want somebody in your corner who feels passionate about providing solutions to you, as well as just kind of being a support to you in a really hard area of self-leadership, which is to get organized. But if we do it, we will optimize greatly and we will see lots of progress in our lives. So Janet, thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're so welcome, Kimberly. This is really fun. Thank you.
It was awesome. Thank you so much. Hey guys, thank you so much for rocking out with us in this episode. Listen, if you are feeling we all go forward, I ask of you, subscribe. I don't want you to miss whenever our episodes drop. Also, remember, as we move in the right direction, that is forward and progressing, never stagnant, we become a resource to help others move in the right direction as well. And the cycle continues, but only if we move. If you go and I go, then we all go forward. Let's get moving.